AWS just dropped a bombshell, cutting LLM inference costs by up to 75%, a move that fundamentally reshapes the economics for building and scaling AI agents. We're also looking at XAI's new Grok 4.6, which is bringing enhanced agent capabilities and wider distribution. But it's not all about new models. New regulatory teeth are biting too, with the EU AI Act's transparency code now enforceable and Twitch making a controversial move by auto opting streamers into Amazon's AI training. It's a week that shows both massive opportunity and growing complexity for builders. No BS AI briefing brought to you by Proactive AI. Welcome back. I'm your host, Vikash Sharma, and this is where builders get straightforward AI news without the fluff. All right, let's dive into this week's high signal items. We've got a lot to unpack that really hits home for product builders and engineers. First up, XAI launched Grok 4.6 with enhanced agent capabilities. Now, this isn't just another incremental update. XAI says this version comes with significant improvements specifically for long-running agent workflows, complex interactive tasks, and its visual reasoning capabilities. In plain English, if you're building autonomous systems or tools that need to understand and interact with visual data, Grok 4.6 should be much more robust. For builders, the truly interesting part is its broader distribution. It's now available via the XI API, but also through platforms like Cursor, Grok Build, OpenRouter, Vercel, and Cloudflare. This vastly lowers the integration friction. Plus, they're offering a fast variant option, which is great because it lets your teams tune for latency versus throughput, directly impacting user experience and operational costs. Pricing remains competitive at $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens, which keeps it accessible for experimentation. Next, and this one's a big one, AWS announced cuts to LLM inference costs by up to 75% with a tiered KV cache. This isn't just a slight tweak, it's a game changer for anyone running large language models. AWS detailed a new tiered KV cache system on SageMaker Hyperpod using something called Curvine, which leverages distributed NVMe storage for cross-replica reuse. What does this mean in simple terms? Well, for long context and multi-turn AI agents, the memory needed for the key value cache, that's where the model stores past conversation turns or context to maintain coherence, can quickly balloon, driving up GPU costs. By offloading parts of this cache to cheaper distributed NVMe storage, AWS reports up to a 75% cost reduction and up to 2.7 times faster time to first token or TTFT. This innovation lets workloads that previously needed extremely expensive P5 instances move to lower cost G6E instances. For us builders, this materially improves the unit economics for those long context and multi-turn agent systems we're all trying to scale. It provides a truly scalable approach to stateful inference and just generally lowers the financial barriers to running frontier models at a larger scale. Imagine what you could build if your inference costs were a quarter of what they are today. Also grabbing headlines, Twitch has auto-opted streamers into Amazon AI training requiring an opt-out. This one's a bit controversial to say the least. According to 404 Media, all content from Twitch streamers, including live streams, VODs, clips, and even chat data, is now automatically used to train Amazon's generative AI models unless creators actively go in and toggle off a specific setting. The rollout immediately sparked significant backlash from the creator community. From a builder's perspective, this story really highlights and heightens the regulatory and ethical risks surrounding default opt-out data usage. If you're building any product that relies on user-generated content for AI training, or even just for improving models, your teams absolutely must audit the provenance and licensing of that data and how you obtain consent. Managing compliance and protecting your company's reputation from these kinds of backlashes is becoming critical. It's a stark reminder that what's technically possible isn't always ethically or legally sound without explicit user buy-in. Moving on, Sequoia led a $12 million seed round for Preview, an AI native video platform. Preview is being described as cursor for video, which is an interesting analogy. It combines a traditional video timeline with an infinite canvas in a collaborative workspace, aiming to integrate AI directly into the video creation process. The company states that over 100 studios are already using it for commercial work, generating video content with various AI models and tracking all their assets within a single system. What does this tell us? For builders, this validates the growing demand for truly AI native creative tools that are deeply embedded within professional workflows. It provides a clear blueprint for how to integrate AI inference directly into production pipelines, moving beyond mere plugins or standalone generators. It shows there's a massive market for tools that rethink fundamental creative processes through an AI lens rather than just adding AI as an afterthought. And finally, a regulatory update. The EU AI Act's transparency code is now enforceable for new models. Specifically, Article 52 of the Code of Practice applies to all AI models launched on or after August 2026. This requires these models to incorporate detectable, machine-readable watermarks. While the code itself is technically voluntary, it serves as the primary and most practical path for companies to meet the broader transparency obligations outlined in the EU AI Act. Why does this matter for builders? Well, if you're deploying any new AI models or products in the EU, you must now ensure they support this watermarking requirement. That's a new technical burden and introduces potential liability if you don't comply. And crucially, we've seen with GDPR, these kinds of EU regulations often set a global precedent, meaning similar requirements are likely to pop up in other jurisdictions before long. So plan accordingly or risk facing major compliance headaches. Now, out of all those important stories, the one that I think truly shifts the ground beneath us is AWS's 75% inference cost reduction, which fundamentally changes the economics of AI agents. What happened in simple terms is AWS has launched a new technology on their SageMaker Hyperpod platform. They're calling it a tiered KV cache with Curvine. Think of the KV cache as the working memory for an LLM when it's processing a conversation or a long piece of text. The longer the context or the more turns in a conversation, the larger this memory gets. Traditionally, this memory had to live entirely on expensive, high bandwidth GPUs. But with this new tiered system, AWS can offload a significant portion of that KV cache to distributed NVMe storage, which is much cheaper. This clever trick means you can get the same or even better performance with the 75% reduction in cost and up to 2.7 times faster time to first token, allowing you to use less expensive GPUs. That's a huge deal. Why does this matter right now? Well, it directly tackles what has been arguably the biggest bottleneck to scaling agentic AI systems: the sheer infrastructure cost. We've all been dreaming of truly persistent, always on AI agents that can handle complex multi-turn tasks, right? But the cost of keeping those frontier models in memory, processing long context, has been prohibitive. This 75% reduction isn't an incremental tweak, it's transformative. It makes previously uneconomical AI applications suddenly viable. It changes the unit economics for any product that relies heavily on long context LLM inference, moving from too expensive to let's build it. It enables a new wave of products that might have been on the roadmap for a year or two to potentially launch within months. So, who should really care about this? Founders and product managers should be immediately asking, what products or features did we put on hold because of high inference costs? Can we revisit those now? This opens up new markets for AI agents that monitor, analyze, and automate continuously rather than just in short bursts. Engineering leaders and infrastructure engineers will find this directly impacts their budgets and architectural choices. It means you can potentially extract more value from your existing GPU fleet or choose lower cost instances for new deployments. It shifts the focus from simply buying more GPUs to optimizing how you use their memory. Indie hackers. This is huge for you. Lower barriers to entry mean you can experiment with more sophisticated agentic systems without burning through your personal savings account. It democratizes access to advanced AI capabilities by making them much more affordable to run. How I'd think about it as a builder, I'd think of this in terms of unlocking new possibilities. Imagine your AI agents aren't just processing quick queries, but truly living within a system, maintaining context across days or weeks, observing patterns, and taking proactive actions. Before, that was a science fiction dream for many, largely due to cost. Now, it starts to look like an engineering challenge. My mental model here is the move from stateless web servers to stateful, highly scalable microservices. This tiered KV cache provides a scalable approach to maintaining state for your AI inference, which is crucial for building truly intelligent, persistent agents. What becomes possible when your agents can always remember and act on a vast long term context without breaking the bank? Think about it. My Nobius take on this. This isn't hype. This is a fundamental infrastructure breakthrough. While AWS is showcasing it on SageMaker Hyperpod with Carvine, the underlying principle of tiered memory management for LLMs is where the real value lies. It signals that the infrastructure layer is rapidly catching up to the demands of frontier models, and that competition in inference efficiency is going to be just as important as competition in model size or capability. We're moving into an era where clever engineering can drastically change the TCO for AI products. If you want one practical takeaway from today's episode, here it is. Experiment. Prototype a long running agent on AWS's tiered KV cache. This is how you get ahead of the curve and understand the real world impact of these cost savings. Here's how to try it in under 60 minutes, or at least get the ball rolling quickly. 1. I am so set up your AWS environment. Spin up a SageMaker Hyperpod instance. You'll need to enable Carvine, which is AWS's underlying technology for this tiered KV cache. It might sound complex, but AWS documentation is generally quite good, so follow their guides. 2. Deploy an open source frontier model. Choose an open source model that you've been wanting to experiment with for agentic tasks, maybe something like Llama 3 or a Mistral model. Deploy it on your Hyperpod instance. 3. Design a multi-turn long context workflow. Create a simple agent workflow that requires significant context. Think of something like research and summarize the last 5 earnings calls of a company, then draft a pros cons list for an investment based on that, and finally answer follow-up questions about specific details from those calls. This forces the agent to maintain context over many turns and a large input. 4. Measure and compare. Run your agent through this workflow. Crucially, measure the inference costs and the time to first token compared to if you were running the same model without the tiered KV cache, or on a more expensive instance type if you had to before. This will give you concrete numbers on the cost savings and performance boost. This specific experiment is worth your time right now because it's the fastest way to understand how a 75% cost reduction can unlock new product capabilities for your business. It's not just theoretical, it's about proving the financial and performance benefits for your specific use cases. Plus, by getting familiar with the setup now, you'll be well positioned to scale when these agents inevitably become central to your product strategy. That's it for today's No BS AI briefing. If this helped, follow the show in your podcast app and share it with one builder you know. And if you've got questions or topics you want covered, connect with me on LinkedIn and send them over. See you in the next briefing.